Welcome to Chat with Nat, the podcast where real conversations meet real life. I'm your host, Natalie Kime, an entrepreneur, financial professional, caregiver, and advocate for living fully. This show dives into the stories and strategies that shape who we are and how we thrive. This week, I'm excited to be diving into the conversation about faith in all of its aspects. But before we do that, let's hop into this week's money tip. I'm going to challenge you guys to try out the 24-hour rule when it comes to purchases. If you see something you want, not need, wait 24 hours before buying it. Studies show that 88% of impulse purchases happen because of emotions, not necessity. By giving yourself a day, you cut the urge, make more intentional choices, and keep more money in your pocket. Over a year, this simple habit can save the average American between $1,200 and $2,400. So my challenge to you is the next time you're ready to purchase a want, sit on it for 24 hours and make sure that you still feel good about it before you pull the trigger. And feel free to send me a note and let me know how that new tool works for you. Let's dive into our topic today. As I said, I'm going to be talking to you about all the different aspects of faith. But first, I want to go through some of the definitions or the meanings around different kinds of faith. Faith is trust and confidence. At its core, faith involves a deep trust or confidence, whether in a person, an idea, or a higher power. It is belief without proof. A common understanding of faith is firm belief in something even when there is no direct evidence or proof. In the religious context, faith is a belief in God, religious doctrines or teachings, and a commitment to that spiritual system. When it comes to loyalty and allegiance, faith can also mean that loyalty is to a person, a cause, or duty, and the quality of keeping one's promises. And then in the legal context, good faith refers to sincerity or honesty, while bad faith implies dishonesty or insincerity. I want to dive into just a few of these components today, and I want to start by talking about faith in humanity. If I'm being honest, when I look around the world sometimes, there's so much messiness. There's so much discontent. There's so much combativeness and even just outright attacking that happens at the surface. But then when I take time to sit back and look a little bit deeper, I see how good humanity still is. 62% of people who see an act of kindness are inspired to pay it forward. This reminds me a few years ago, there was that trend. I don't know if it existed where you are, but here where I am, it was the trend of you'd go to Starbucks and you'd pay for the order behind you. And I remember one day pulling up to the window to get my order, and they said, the lady in front of you paid for your order. And I had not just ordered a coffee that day. I had ordered breakfast and a snack. And so I paid for the order behind me. And hopefully that continued on for several cars or even several hours. But I know there's so much of things like that that goes around. People who have more look for the opportunities to give more, either when it comes to their time, financially, or whatever. Over 77% of people globally believe most people can be trusted. I want you to think about a time when somebody helped you out, went out of their way in a grocery line, buying your coffee at Starbucks like I talked about, or just showed up to help when you were struggling with something. Maybe you were sick and somebody brought you a meal. How did that make you feel? I know for me that every time somebody goes out of their way without being asked, without even knowing that I might be struggling, going through a difficult time, not feeling well, whatever it is, every time they go out of their way to be of service to me, it definitely fuels that fire of service within me to pass that on to somebody else who needs it. That whole pay it forward concept. Faith in humanity restores hope when the news cycle or personal struggles you're facing might be making you feel isolated. So the next time that you're struggling, that it seems like everything you see on the television or everything that's going on around you in your community or in your family seems heavy and hard, I'm going to challenge you to sit back and look for those sparkles of humanity that are all around us. I truly believe there's more good than bad in this world, but unfortunately, the bad is thrown in our faces every single day. We have to actually make an effort to look for the good. I apply this in my work that I do. I was speaking to one of my agents the other day who was struggling. Life's throwing some things at him. Things aren't going as smoothly in their business as they hoped. And yet they have a lot of things that are going on. But she reached out to me and she said, I always call you when I'm struggling. And so I listened to the things that she had on her plate, the things she felt like were just attacking her. And then I reminded her, first of all, of who she is and that she never gives up. And that even though she struggles at times and reaches out to me to lift her up, to fill her up with energy and hope and excitement for the things she has going on, there are all of these things in her life and in her business that are going fantastic. And she said, that's why I always call you, because you're going to listen to where I'm at. And then you're going to remind me of everything I have to be grateful for. And gratitude is something I practice every single morning. I read my scriptures, I pray, I have my first cup of coffee. I might take some notes and even do my Bible study. Usually all in that first kind of hour or so that I'm up in the morning. But then I pull out my notebook and I write down 5 things I'm grateful for. Tiny things, the small things that are really easy to overlook from the day before. Because if I can find those small things to be grateful for from yesterday, I'm going to have more of that attitude of gratitude as I go through my day today. I'm building up that armor of gratitude around me so that as today happens and maybe some things don't go exactly how I plan them to, I just push through a little bit better. And it helps me stop and pause in a moment of frustration and think, gosh, this happened on that last client appointment, or I got this phone call today, or a client's policies got approved today. And so it just helps me look for the things to be grateful for in every single day by starting my day off with just a few minutes of gratitude. Now, the second area of faith I want to talk about today is faith in yourself. 70% of people experience imposter syndrome. And I know this is true for me. There have been many times, many times in my career that I struggled thinking, am I qualified for this new promotion? In my business, am I ready to step into this full time? And I think this person is doing it so great. I don't know if I can do what they did, or I don't know if I'm qualified. And I remember somebody once saying to me that if I succeeded anywhere in my life, I could continue to do so in any new endeavor that I undertook. And that was a mindset shift for me to realize that my success from the past carries with me anywhere I go. And so I just need to stand in that confidence I had somewhere else. Yeah, I may have some things to learn in this new industry. I may have some challenges I face along the way, but I've faced and overcome every challenge in my past, both in my career, in my personal life, wherever it might be. And so I can continue to do that as I move forward. People who have a higher belief in their own abilities or higher self-efficacy are 3 times more likely to achieve their long-term goals. You've got to do the work on you. I trained my team this morning on mindset, and one of the things I said was you have to get up every day and dress for success. And I don't mean the clothes you put on your body. I mean dress for success from the inside. And then I just had a meetup call with a new networking connection I made recently. And we were talking about this same subject, that you have to be always in the pursuit of personal growth and business growth to keep up with how fast things are moving today. And he specializes in AI and helping people to utilize that in their business. And I'm going to have him on a future episode of the podcast. So watch out for that. I'm really excited to have that conversation with him because AI is a tool I've started using in my business to benefit me. But at the end of the day, no matter what tools you have, no matter what opportunities in front of you, or no matter what challenge you're facing, that belief in your ability to overcome, to succeed, or to learn if things don't work out your way makes you 3 times more likely to achieve the thing you're trying to accomplish. I talked a little bit about that faith or that leap from corporate to entrepreneurship. I had no guarantees, you guys. The only thing that I had locked down was I had 6 months of income saved. And I was making about 50% of my previous income when I stepped into my business full time. So that meant if I only kept making 50% of my income that I was making part time, I could get by for a year. That 6 months of full time income I had saved could fill in the gaps and I'd get through a year. That's the only thing I knew for sure. And here I am 6.5 years later, still going. That's what faith in yourself looks like. Feeling like, well, for me, I knew I was called to the work that I do. I get to wake up every day and serve people. And I pray every day, God, open doors and windows to allow me to meet and connect with more people that I can serve through the work that I do. I had to step out in faith that I could do this. And I remember when I gave my notice at my job that I was retiring myself, I said to my boss, hey, keep the door cracked for me a little in case this doesn't work out. I might come back in a year. And the boss who I was giving my notice to, who was going to have to replace me, said to me, you won't be back. You're going to be amazing. So maybe when you're struggling a little bit on that individual faith, that confidence that you can do this thing, remember to lean on the people around you. Let people pour into you and remind you who you are, and continue to work and focus on growing yourself. They say that you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with, and that occurs in every part of your life. Who are the people you spend the most time with in your personal life, in your business, or in your job? Are they pouring into you or are they draining you? Putting the right people around you to encourage you when you're struggling and who are also pursuing their own growth, expanding their belief in themselves and what they're capable of, those are the people that you need to be around so that can continue to flow over into you. And when you're strong and when you're doing great and your belief is growing, your faith is as high as it can be in that moment, it's pouring over into someone else as well. Faith in yourself is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So make sure that you're practicing it every opportunity you get. And by continuing to grow, you continue to challenge yourself to do exactly that. Strengthen that muscle of faith in yourself. Now, the third kind of faith I want to touch on today is the religion or higher power side of faith. For me, this is a game changer. When I started my business, before I started my business, so it was about 7 years ago, I had a huge upheaval in my life, and I've talked about that story in depth in the past. But the first thing I did was I went on a faith journey to grow my faith in my higher power, to connect with my higher power at a very personal level and get me through that really difficult time. And the second thing I did was the personal growth. So first, I was building my faith in my higher power. I was leaning on God to get me through. And whatever that faith is for you, having a belief in something bigger than yourself is an absolute game changer. And in my humble opinion, absolutely necessary. So I started with my faith from a religious standpoint, and then I was working on building myself. and my faith in myself when I came across the business opportunity that I have today. And I think the only reason I saw it for what it was is because of that work I had done. I truly believe I was called to do the work that I do. And so leaning on my faith on a constant basis is so important to me. And taking on my parents as a caregiver, they live with me. That was a big shift, a big change in my life. And I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to do it and that I was in a position to bring them into my home. And because of my business and working from home full time, I'm able to show up for them. It's all because of where I started 7 years ago in leaning into my faith to go grow stronger through my relationship with God that helped me strengthen every other area of my life for what only He knew was coming down the road. 84% of the world identifies with a religious faith. People with religious or spiritual practices are 29% more likely to report a higher life satisfaction and resilience. There's something to get us through when life is hard. There's something that helps us to dream and believe everything that we desire, everything that we want to create in this world is possible. Over the last 3 years of my parents living with me, there have been a lot of times I've had to lean on my faith as I was growing and understanding how I needed to show up for them, understanding when I needed to step back and help make sure that their independence was being maintained as much as possible. Patience, making some renovations to my house that my parents needed from a safety perspective. Trusting that I could manage to show up for my parents first and that my business would be okay. See, I believe that you should build your business around your family, not your family around your business. And I've been able to do that. And I truly believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that I wouldn't be able to if I hadn't gone on my faith journey 7 years ago and stayed on the faith journey to this day. Because life can get heavy. People can disappoint you. Employers can let you down. But I believe with all of my heart that God is always there to pick us up. So whatever your faith is, whether it's God, the universe, whatever that is, it's something bigger than you. There's a purpose for you and for what you do. Tap into that. Let that be the foundation on which you build everything else. Because when life gets hard, when things get heavy, when disappointments happen, that faith might be the only thing that gets you through until you can see yourself again and lean on your personal faith in who you are and your abilities. Do you see how these different types of faith are stacking on each other? That's how it works, y'all. If you focus on the negative, the disappointments, the frustrations, the anger in any situation, that's what you're going to see more of. But when you focus on having faith in humanity, in yourself, and in a power greater than you, what you see is opportunity, blessings, and it's easier to step out in faith when nothing is guaranteed and trust that it's all going to work out. To bridge these three components of faith together, I want you to look at it like this. Humanity reminds us we're not alone. Self-belief reminds us that we're capable. And religion reminds us that we have a purpose. Hope and optimism are linked to better health outcomes and even longer life expectancy. I hear so many stories of people that get severe medical diagnosis and they refuse to give in. And it doesn't mean that the outcome is what they ultimately want it to be, but their battle against cancer against whatever the disease or the disability is a little bit lighter because they refuse to give in. And I've also heard stories of people who just couldn't see past the diagnosis. And we're not always in control of that. As a matter of fact, we're probably not at all in control of that. But I'm a firm believer that faith plays a very significant part in every difficulty we face, but those health outcomes especially. I believe in miracles, and I believe that every single one of us can accomplish everything that's on our hearts because it wouldn't be there if we weren't capable of doing it. I want you guys to think about your why. What's most important to you? And is there some work you need to do from a belief perspective, from a faith perspective, to make it happen? What are you leaving sitting on your dream board or your list of goals? What are you leaving sitting there because you haven't stepped out in faith yet? I want to challenge you to pick up that list, to look at that dream board and find just one thing that you're going to focus on, that you're going to step into with faith, that if you do the work, you're going to get where you want to be. And if you don't get the ultimate result you'd like, I can promise you're going to learn something along the way. You're going to get better and you're going to get stronger in some area. And then you just tackle it again. Maybe you change a couple things up. Just don't stop. Keep moving forward in faith in yourself, in the world around you, and in that higher power that you believe in. I know that God's got me, and I believe that He's got you too. If today's conversation gave you hope or a new way of looking at faith, please don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a friend who needs it. And if you want more of my content, please go check out Chat with Nat on Substack and subscribe to get all of the content that I post there. I want to thank you for listening to this week's episode. And my hot take is, it's still hot. If you live in Texas, you know what I'm talking about. A friend of mine posted a reel just yesterday or the day before that cracked me up. And it said something about people in Texas realizing it's just false fall or fake fall, something like that. And there's this guy in this big old sweater because it was cool for one day. And he's just dripping with sweat in the heat. I don't know if you live somewhere like me. For a lot of you, it may be finally cooling down and staying that way. I know what I grew up in Utah. And so this time of year, it really was getting cool. You could throw on a sweatshirt and be comfortable. Right now in Texas, it's, mid to high 60s in the mornings, but we're still getting up into the mid 80s during the day. So, hey, I'm looking forward to it dropping down into the 70s, but at least we're not in the 90s anymore. So take advantage of whatever the weather is around you. Get out and fill your soul. Take some you time to go on a faith walk and figure out maybe where you need to focus a little bit more. I appreciate you guys being here as always. And until next time, remember to focus on your 5 F's and be sure to make time for joy.